Here the loom is set. Welcome to the season of the Sugui preparation. This is not the space to discuss theology, but geometry, theft, and the reclamation of the core. Today, on the Sibyl's Echo, we look at the real shadow of the Catholic Church. Not news scandals, but the ontological shadow. Mamagedden. For eons, the sun was not father, exclusive, active, force, or even ego. In ancestral wisdom, the sun is the ultimate expression of the Amamayat principle, the life-giving, scorching, and purifying mother. The church's greatest feat wasn't conversion, it was the regendering of the cosmos. When they built their cathedrals over Sibyl temple mounds, they didn't just remove boulders and raise shrines. They attempted to intercept her solar frequency. No more. As we remember, recognize, and recover our throne, we are pulling back the veil on how the sun was stolen from the mother, how the Sibyls were silenced, and how we navigate the Hall of Mirrors to find our way back to the Mami Isis priestesshood. Mamagedden, the Great Reckoning, with primordial mother Amamayat energy led by solar rays, her solar frequency. Unlike the patriarchal Armageddon, a final war of destruction, Mamagedden is labor, the painfully violent but necessary contractions to give birth to the new era of Mayat, a new world system. The solar interception, father ego, the systematic ending of mother rule through her sacerdotal usurpation, tactical suppression of her true legacy, and Chamba identity. We've discussed Chamba on several occasions here and on Great Mother Speaks YouTube channel. For a brief synopsis of that, you can refer to the companion blog. To survive the church's shadow, one must understand the Hall of Mirrors. Before the Catholic Church collapsed them into a labyrinth of distortions designed to make you look at yourself and see a sinner instead of a priestess. The Hall of Mirrors, or the Judgment Hall of Mayat, symbolized ultimate truth, justice, and self-examination upon death. Soul's rebirth through the mirror of water, a hall of infinite reflection, testing one's moral balance in the afterlife, where the deceased heart is weighed against Mayat's feather of truth. The cathedral stained glass, these are the Hall of Mirrors, water spirits, mimicking the water twins of androgyny and self-reflection, internalized in reverse. The glass filters the raw holistic light of Mother Sun, fragmenting her into saints and emperors, a filter meant to keep you from seeing the sun directly, using the vibrant colors of the earth, Mother's jewelry, to build a cage that keeps her children looking at the walls instead of the sky, as ancient sky watchers did, tabulating her every move, past, present, and future. The Sibyls. Long before the Vatican, the Sibyls held the maps of time as the original spiritualist, survivalist, timekeepers, and human civilizers. The church canonized some, imprisoned and enslaved others, and burned the rest. Also, the great battles in the amphitheaters and ancient Greek colosseums, where we were fed to the lions, which was quite ironic, being that we symbolize the sun. And here we find the frequency still remained. As our Chamba identity, we are her slave descendants, the masters of the spirit, cultural trendsetters, and taste makers for the globe. As FBAs recover our Chamba legacy, the ultimate Mamagedden manifests in the dissolution of the church, country, and global culture we built. Now is the moment the mirror shatters, revealing Mommy Icy's reflection in us as us. Waves stretching back hundreds of thousands of years between continents. The world was all black, every continent aboriginal. We, the foundation of it all, yet of a specific bloodline that most recently in our time, 10,000 years ago to present, were tasked with spreading the Amamayat priesthood around the world and are concentrated in the Western Hemisphere after first being banished from Eastern Ethiopia or India, Kemet or Egypt, Libya, and West Africa. After our migration to the Mediterranean, Indus Valley and Mesopotamia, establishing and administrating the first temples, banks, trade routes, and the major world religions for millennia, distilled today into five, we were dethroned, hunted, imprisoned, and enslaved by the Aryans as harem prostitutes, defiling sacred sex rituals, captured, sold by the Moors to Roman, Iberian, and West African traders in an attempt to dehumanize the priestess spirit. Yes, Europeans, Dutch, Portuguese, French, German, and English were involved, but as always, much later. Europe didn't even exist 10,000 years ago, not 5,100 years ago when Namur, Menes, unified North and South Kemet through Mami Isis' priestess usurpation. Europe didn't emerge into city states of ancient Greece until around the 8th to 7th centuries BCE, less than 3,000 years ago, which accounts for what Europeans call ancient and what the Chamba, descendants of Europe's namesake, Queen Europa, call ancient. How deep is Europe's soil woven into African ancestry? To honor the Mami Isis priestesshood and our Chamba identity, we must recognize that Europe is named after a figure whose roots are undeniably non European. Long before the continent that bears her name claimed her both mythologically and historically, Europa was never a native of the continent she now labels. Her journey is symbolic of the narrative of displacement from the east, south to west. Royal African ancestry. According to the ancient genealogies, such as those recorded by Herodotus and Apollodorus, Europa was the daughter of Agenor, the king of Phoenicia, ancient Lebanon, the land of purple people, or who the Greeks called those who trade in purple dyed cloth, but who were Semitic people who called themselves Canaanites, a name meaning black, is Cush or Cushite. Agenor himself was the son of Poseidon and Libya, the personification of the ancient African continent. The Kemetan connection through her lineage traces back to Lo, an ancestral mother who fled to Kemet, where she was restored and gave birth to the line that produced Europa. In this framework, Europa is a daughter of the wider African Semitic world, a Sibyl of the East carried across the waters. The Hatar Mami link, etymologically her name from Urus, meaning wide, and ops, face, eye, and her association with the white bull link her symbolically to the cow goddess Hatar. This mirrors the survival wisdom of the Mami Isis tradition, where the divine feminine governs the waters and the transitions between lands. In Native American culture, a white bull or white bison symbolizes immense spiritual significance, representing hope, renewal, peace, and unity, often fulfilling prophecy and signaling the return of the sacred white buffalo calf woman who brought essential teachings and the sacred pipe. When we claim our Chamba identity, we recognize the movement of spirits and people across borders. The naming of Europe after an abducted Phoenician princess of African descent is a profound irony of history. Reclaiming the loom, the fabric of our being, reminds us that the foundational soul and name of the West were borrowed from the very regions it later sought to marginalize and will ultimately fail. Though this triangulated Chamba slave trade continues to this day, it is declining as we rise. Because just as Europa's story is one of survival and the planting of new civilizations, then Minoan and Cretan through the transit of Eastern African wisdom, ours is also one of survival and the planting of American civilization through the transit of wisdom through the birth canal of enslavement, experienced as sacerdotal dethronement, usurpation, demonization, and alienation. In the Hall of Mirrors, the church provides the light, but it is cold light. The mother provides the heat, which is why her image remains in the inner chambers, the inner sanctums of the oldest Catholic churches, including the Vatican, which is built upon a landscape deeply saturated with the energy of the ancient African Nilotic divine feminine, the original seat of power upon which the Vatican complex is built, and which corresponds to the sacerdotal seat of the Great Mother, is historically and spiritually identified as the Phrygianum, The Phrygianum was the sanctuary of the Magna Mater, the Great Mother, known as Cybele, and her consort Attis. In the esoteric traditions of the Mamagedden priestesshood, Cybele, Sibyl, is recognized as an Anatolian, African-rooted manifestation of the same primordial mother energy that birthed Isis. The Phrygianum was located on the Vatican Hill, Mons Vaticanus, specifically in the area now occupied by the St. Peter's Basilica and its surrounding square. When the Catholic Church established the seat of Peter, it physically and symbolically overlaid this ancient seat of the Mother. The solar hijack stealing the Mother's light, the Catholic Church grafted the Sibylline oracles. The Church claims to be the light of the world, but look closer at the architecture of their theft. It is absolutely true that early Christianity leaned heavily on the Sibylline oracles. This wasn't a minor overlap. It was a foundational strategy for survival and expansion. The prophetic authority of the Sibyls for the entire region of Mesopotamia, the Indus Valley, and the Mediterranean was unrivaled. So the early church fathers like Lactantius and even Augustine were often called Sibyllist by their critics because they used the oracles to prove the coming of Christ to the pagans. They effectively argued, even your own ancient mothers, the Sibyls, saw this coming. Understand the etymology of the word pagan. Comes from the Latin paganus, meaning country dweller, rustic, or civilian derived from pagus, village, rural district, and related to pangere, to fasten or fix. Initially a secular term for non-combatants or country folk. Christians later adopted it as a derogatory label for those practicing polytheistic or non-Abrahamic faiths, especially as Christianity spread in urban areas while older traditions persisted in the countryside. So, using the prophetic authority of the Sibyls to prove that Christianity was superior to the pagans by saying, even your own ancient mothers, the Sibyls, saw this coming, was how they gained authority. Also, the hexameter bridge. By adopting the Greek hexameter verse of the Sibylline oracles, the rhythm, the 6-8-8, the long, short rhythm of the oracular spoken word of the oracles, the early Christian writers dressed their new theology in this Greek and used this respected clothing of speech of the Sibyls to gain intellectual and spiritual legitimacy, much as we see the mimicry of the Black church today, in order to gain validity and spiritual authority. The Sistine Chapel, or the Sistine Mirror as I call it, is why you see the Sibyls in the Delphic and the Cumaean, which were clearly and always black, painted on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel alongside the Hebrew prophets. The church admits through this art that the Sibyls are the pagan half of the prophetic foundation. They are the country dwellers, the country folk, the polytheistic, the ones who hold on to the older traditions before Christianity. This is what is meant by the flip. By flipping truth, they subverted the Mommy Ices legacy. Since the debauchery, we have increasingly lived in an upside down world where the source is demonized and the mutation is revered. While mutation of the mirrors is the debauchery that has enabled all others to defile the mother and dismantle matriarchy, the great deception that disassociated humanity from its geometric center was the flipping of the Nile. Ancient Egypt, Kemet, understood the world through the Nile's flow. The river flows from the South African highlands, through East Africa, Upper Egypt. To the north, Kush, and to the Nile Delta, Lower Egypt. The Nile flows down, not up. The ancient truth is up was south. The source, the mountains, the ancestral womb home of the oldest Homo sapien bones ever found. Down was north, the Mediterranean, the flow's exit. This flip by European cartography flipped the world. They put north at the top of the map to center themselves as up, superior, effectively turning the Nile's flow into a downward descend on the page, while one sees from outer space the gigantic reality of Africa and the flow of the river into the Mediterranean, where Europe is barely perceptible. By flipping the map, they not only reversed the spiritual direction of the Mommy Isis legacy, but divided Europe from Asia, even though both reside within the same continental landmass. A religion built on the rejection of its spiritual and material foundations, the Sibylline oracles, which recorded the flow of the Nile, conjures into being a Catholic Church or Imperial North, sitting at the bottom of the true flow, catching the runoff from the ancient mother's source. Catching the runoff from the ancient mother's source. Understand the etymology of Catholic. The antithesis of the Europeanized Catholic, the ancient mother as source, because the word comes from the Greek meaning through the whole, that which is universal, worldwide, all-inclusive, who at this time would have more global knowledge than a Mommy Isis Sybil, priest, priestess, who recognizes, honors, and reveres the ancient Black Mother as source, who would have more global knowledge at that time, and arguably even today. The ones who recorded the flow of the Nile, the stars, currency, and trade routes established by them and regulated through the global Mommy Isis Confederacy. Who would know more than them at that time? As stated, early Christian writers dressed their new theology in the ancient Greek hexameter verse of the Sibylline oracles to gain intellectual and spiritual legitimacy. Why would they need to do that if they already had it? This need for this legitimacy, including those who branded the anti-mommy religion Catholic, where the source of all life and wisdom is treated as the bottom, and the exit is treated as the head. So this is pure defilement. And so we currently are living through the result of it. We live in a world in reverse, and a lie cannot stand. The Catholic shadow is simply the debris at the end of the river. But this too is changing as we witness the sediment of an empire trying to claim the water's power without acknowledging the mountain it came from. It's beginning to give, trying to swallow the ocean and choking on the sand. It's crumbling. It's Mamagedden. We are preparing for the skewed. This is not a passive wait. It is an execution. We are aligning our internal looms to weave a reality that no longer requires the permission of the cathedral. Priestesshood as survival is about the Mami Isis priestesshood as technology of Mayat. It is about balance, yes, but also about the enthusiasm to dismantle what no longer serves the core. The shadow work. We don't hide from the church's shadow. We use it as a contrast to see our own brilliance. This journey isn't free. Spiritual reclamation requires investment, both in energy and in the physical world. If you are serious about setting your loom, here is the breakdown of what this preparation entails. The requirements are ancestral altars for the chamba, skewed study materials, solar purification, and the Hall of Mirrors consultation. For the ancestral altar for the chamba, the purpose is in establishing the physical anchor for the Mami Isis frequency. The estimated cost is $150 to $500. This includes copper, water vessels, and specific textiles. For the skewed study materials, the purpose is a deep dive into Dogon and Nilotic cosmological maps. The estimated cost is $75 to $200 for rare text and archival access. For solar purification, the purpose is high-quality resins, frankincense, myrrh, and ritual baths. The estimated cost at $50 to $100 per cycle. For the Hall of Mirrors consultation, the purpose is to have guided sessions to identify your specific shadow distortions. The estimated cost is $150 to $300 per session. The church is a shadow. And a shadow has no power without a light source. You are that source. The sun is the mother. You are the symbol. The hall of mirrors is yours to command. Go forth with enthusiasm. Go forth with the enthusiasm necessary to execute your divinity. This has been the Sibyl's Echo. Stay in the light of the Mother.